What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Zach, and we are back. I'm over here dropping unintentional rhymes because I'm just good like that. Welcome to another episode of Overly Committed, y'all. So happy you guys can join me. Today we got a very basketball-focused episode. We're going to start things off. We're going to talk about why Zion Williamson should come back, why he will come back, some of my thoughts on that. We're going to talk about the 30-point game streak, 30 points a game streak from James Harden that just came to a close. We're going to dive into some of these triple-double numbers that Russell Westbrook is throwing up. And for our committed to unscripted today, we're going to talk about all of these NBA super teams. We're going to give it from the perspective of a real fan who likes a competitive NBA. But in this day and age of super teams, we know who's going to be in the championship. Golden State Warriors. We know who the top 5 teams are going to be. Everybody wants to get together and play together. It is professional sports. This is supposed to be competitive. Let's make it competitive. So I'm going to give you guys some of my feelings on this super team league that we're in right now. So please, guys, let's get it rolling. Episode 2 of Overly Committed is coming at you guys right now. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Overly Committed. I am your host, Zach Lowell. I am so happy y'all could join me for another episode. Let's dive into some fun topics. Like I mentioned in the intro, today is going to be a very basketball-focused episode, so hopefully you guys are ready to talk about some B-ball. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First thing that I really wanted to talk about was going to be Mr. Zion Williamson, the 6'7", 285-pound 18-year-old animal, and I mean that in a great way, from Duke. I'm not sure if you guys actually watched that North Carolina Duke game, but you probably saw the highlights. This man came out of his shoe. I don't even know if out of his shoe is the right way. He came through his shoe. Man was wearing some Nikes, went to go pivot in the first minute of the game. Biggest game of the year for the NCAA. Duke in North Carolina always draws a huge crowd. It's a huge watching. Tickets were more than the Super Bowl, but Zion Williamson is the reason why these tickets were so expensive. Everybody wants to go watch this kid play. He is a physical phenomenon. Closest thing to it, gonna say it, LeBron James. I'm not saying he's the next LeBron James. I'm talking about as far as his physical stature, his physical dominance. We haven't seen anything like this kid. I'm sure there's other pieces, RJ, but there's other pieces, but Zion Williamson is the draw. So people show up, pay all this money within the first minute. Zion wearing some Nikes goes right through his shoe. I'm talking foot through the shoe, ends up getting a minor sprain in his knee. Looked a lot scarier than it actually ended up being. But I'll tell you what, that man's not signing with Nike when he gets to the NBA because those shoes apparently aren't supporting his huge frame. So since then, there's been a lot of talks. People have been talking about, should Zion Williamson sit out the rest of the season? He's only a freshman. He's 18 years old. He sprained his knee. Everyone's saying, is this guy's going to be a number 1, at minimum, a top 3 overall pick? People are saying he might go to the Knicks. I'd be okay with that fit. I look at him more of a Blake Griffin. I actually think maybe RJ Barrett's probably the better all-around player as far as shooter, ball handler. Zion Williamson is a great passer. He's a great physical specimen, like I had mentioned, but he reminds me of a Blake Griffin. Granted, he is a star. That man is a phenom at the age of 18. He comes to New York. It's going to fit him well. Like I mentioned in my last video, we do have 2 open max spots. So we pair that with Kyrie. We pair that with, people are saying KD as much as I don't want him. I think Jimmy Butler's a better fit. You get Zion to play the 4 and the 5 to replace Kristaps. We got DeAndre Jordan. Nick's roster's kind of looking nice next year. We'll see what we do in free agency. So the big question is going to be, should Zion Williamson sit out the rest of the season to make sure he doesn't get any further injury, to save his top 3 drafts, his top 3 draft prospect, and say, hey, why risk injury? You know you're going to get picked up. You know you're going to get paid. Go chase the money. Or does he come back and does he actually play some basketball and maybe he gets hurt and maybe that hurts his draft stock? And I get both sides. I see where this could be a debate. In my opinion, personally, granted, my opinion, Zion Williamson's going to come back. He's going to play some ball. He's going to play ball at Duke. He's going to finish out this first year. He'll go to the NBA next year. So he'll forego his sophomore, junior, senior season, but he will finish out this season. Why do I believe that? Number one, if you've been to college, It's no different that these guys are on ESPN. If anything, it's worse. If you've been to college, it's a fun place to be, especially somewhere like Duke, where you are the man. You're a national treasure. College is what you guys think it is. It is going out, going to classes when you're tired in your sweatpants and your hoodies, and then you're spending your nights out with your buddies, you're playing Xbox, you're going to parties, you're having so much fun. Imagine being a global, national American superstar. You're 18 years old on a college campus. This is some of the funnest times he's going to have in his life. He is on top of the world. He is king. King of the castle. That is Zion Williamson. He is the king. He's not going to go in. Now we're getting into March. March Madness is one of the most exciting. It's the funnest time for sports fans, for the athletes. Zion's not going to pass up on that. The end of the season's already here. He's going to miss basically March Madness. He's not going to do that. He's going to go. He's going to take advantage, have some fun with his last year with his brothers. You guys are basketball players. Basketball players. We play basketball. Zion's going to come back. Now, obviously, college is fun. I think the bigger thing, at least from my point of view, let me first start off by saying I don't think that these kids, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids coming out of high school should be required to go to college. Granted, this was a new rule that got thrown in. If you remember, people, Kobe, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, they all came straight out of high school, and there was a rule set where the kids had to go to college. I think they're actually doing some talks now about lowering that age, but an individual shouldn't have to go to college. If they're good enough to go straight to the NBA and want to forego college, they should have that right. That should be their decision. Do you want to go to college? Do you not want to go to college? Is education something that's important to you? Most people forego the education. They get a really, I don't want to say just a nonsense degree that's not even going to help them as far as a career, but they're just getting a degree because they're in college and they have to. But they don't ever want to use the degree. They want to be a professional basketball player. Now, if you have an idea for life after basketball, that's a different thing. But these kids should not have to go to college. With that being said, Zion Williamson made the choice to go to college. Now, people are going to say, well, he had to go to college. It was part of the rules. And for the most part, you're right. Okay, for the national scale, yeah, he went to Duke. He wanted the fame. You get Coach K. He's an amazing coach. No one's ever said a bad thing about that guy. But he could have went to the G League. It's the D League, but now Gatorade all sponsored. They call it the G League. He could have went to the G League, made a lot less money, but could have foregone college that way. Spent a year in the G League and then went to the NBA after that. He could have went that route. He chose not to. He wanted the fame. He wanted to go to the big school with a big coach. He went to Duke. Zion, you made that commitment. You committed to Duke, to Coach K, to your teammates, to that campus, to that city, to that state. You are committed to Duke. You need to see your commitment through. That was your decision to go, and now you have to finish it out. That's how that works. If you didn't make the commitment, then I would say, hey, that's fine. You went to the G League, you're hurt, you want to sit the rest of the season out, go to the NBA next. That's fine. For Duke, this is March Madness is coming up. We're in March now. You need to be out there with your teammates, and I'm sure you will be. I know you will be. It's going to be a great time. You're going to have fun while you're doing it, but you made the commitment to go to this 1 year of schooling at Duke. That was your decision, and now you need to see your decision through. That's how I feel about it. I know everyone's situation is different. Everybody has different feelings about it. But if you make a commitment to something, your word is bond. Once you say you're doing something and you're committed to something, you now have to go ahead and act on that. And if you don't, then what good is your word? Got a little deep there, didn't I? Whew. So Zion Williamson will be back. We got start of March. We got March Madness getting ready to come up. Duke just lost to Virginia, actually, with no Zion Williamson, and he is a huge piece. He's a huge mental piece. They even spoke about after the game. Duke actually lost that game in North Carolina. A lot of the Duke teammates, a lot of the Duke players were, after Zion went out, Zion went to the sideline. We found out Zion wasn't coming back. It mentally rattled us. Of course it did. Zion is their MJ. Maybe not. I need to stop with these MJ. I'm not trying to compare Zion to MJ or to LeBron. I'm comparing his phenom figure, his stardom. All right, y'all. So James Harden's 30 points per game streak finally came to an end last Monday. Streak ended at 32 games. Pretty dang impressive. That is a long way to go. You're averaging 30 points a game, or you're throwing up 30 points a game for 32 straight games. Finally came to a close last Monday when the Rockets were facing the Atlanta Hawks. If you saw the end of that game, it was pretty funny. James Harden had 28. Got the ball, not a lot of time left. A bunch of Hawks just surrounded James Harden as if to say, you're not throwing up 30 against us. Your streak's coming to a close today, buddy. After the game, James Harden kind of seemed relieved that the 30-point streak was over. It's almost like a lot of pressure all, lifted off of your shoulders. They had asked him, how does it feel to get to 32 straight games? He said, it feels great, but, I was never going to get to number one anyway, which was kind of funny to hear him say that. Number one is obviously Wilt Chamberlain. I think he had, 65 straight games of 30 points or more. Wilt Chamberlain was a different era, a different type of player. There was nobody even in the same realm as Wilt Chamberlain at that time. So I thought it was kind of funny for James Harden to come out and say, well, I was never going to be number one anyway. No one's catching Wilt. And that's true. No one's catching Wilt. So 32 games, 30-point streak finally came to a close. But the big question, at least what I'm thinking about, is, he's making the news, and he's again, an MVP candidate, an unbelievable player. I mean, who would have thought the small beard, six-man OKC would develop into this unbelievable premier all-star talent? Fear the beard. Mr. James Harden is an official all-star. He's one of the best players I've ever seen play. I love watching the guy play. He's so silky smooth, and I feel like when you watch him, and maybe this is just me, and that's why I enjoy having an episode like this where, again, I'm just a normal guy. I'm a normal fan who watches sports like you guys. And please, someone down in the comments, if you have ever felt like this, when you're watching James Harden play, does he not look like he's moving in slow motion? It's like he's going to take two dribbles, go through the legs, and hit you with a step back, and then he's popping a three, and your hand's going to be this close, and you know what's coming, and he's still going to make it. You know what he's doing. He's going 2 Euros. After the Euros, he's going left-hand finish. We know what's coming. When he gets the ball, it's ISO. He's not passing the ball. Everyone just goes to the corner. It's going to be James Harden one-on-one. Figure it out, James. We know what's coming, and it looks so slow. But he's so effective, and he's so good. It doesn't make any sense. It's part of why I love watching the guy play. You know what's going to happen before it happens, and you can't stop it. I guess that's what makes him great. So is it impressive? That's the question that I want to dive into. Is this 32-game streak of 30 points or more that impressive? Yes, it is impressive. Very impressive. In today's NBA, with the super teams, with the all-stars, with the talent that's in the NBA, for anybody to be able to throw up 30 points or more in 32 straight games is very impressive. I will say that, especially with the rules today, where it does cater a little bit more towards the offense, hands off, can't even touch, favors towards the offense, but regardless, with the athletes that we have in the game today, it's impressive. So this year alone, James Harden is averaging 36.6 points per game. The man is going off. He's averaging 13.5 threes attempted per game, and he's throwing up 24.5 shots per game. That is quite a lot. But I think what's so impressive about James Harden when you look at it is who he's doing it with. He has to play basketball this way right now. Now, CP3 just came back, and CP3 is going to be, he is still the key cog in Houston. James Harden is great. He's the scorer. CP3 is the heart. CP3 is the leader. CP3 is going to be crucial if they want to be able to do anything come playoff time, if they want to overtake those Warriors, which I don't think anybody's going to, but if they want to give them a fight. If you remember last year, Chris Paul got hurt in the Warriors series, and I think that put a fork in it right there. Chris Paul can stay healthy this postseason. We'll see what happens. They got to get Clint Capella back, but James Harden has to play basketball this way. So you had people that came out, and James Harden even said it's a little disheartening when other professionals come out and kind of hate him the way he plays. Kobe Bryant came out, and Kobe said, I don't think you can win championships playing that way. It's not the the ball hog way. And even James Harden saying that hurts a little bit to hear professional, other former NBA players talking like that. And James, I'm on your side. Who else you giving the ball to, my man? There is nobody. In order for Houston to win, James Harden had to play that way. Otherwise, they weren't winning. And now with Chris Paul back, he is the floor general. He's going to get the ball up the court. It's not going to be in James Harden's hand. He's not going to be so ball dominant. Now, one of the caveats people are always talking about when it comes to James Harden, is his abundance of shots that he takes. And that part I do agree with. I think something that really stands out to me, this man's averaging 36.6 points per game. He's averaging 13.5 3-point attempts per game. That's a lot of threes. I went back and I checked out MJ's entire career statistics. There was only, here's ready for a tongue twister, MJ only averaged 3 or more 3-point attempts in 3 seasons his entire career. 96 and 97 was his highest year. In 96 and 97, MJ averaged 3.6 3-point attempts per game. 3.6 attempts per game, 13.5 attempts per game. James Harden is taking 10 more attempts, 3-point attempts this year per game compared to Michael Jordan when he took the most 3-point attempts ever in a season. This season alone, James Harden is taking 10 more threes. That's a potential 30 points. If MJ was taking 13.5 threes per game, that man will be averaging 60 already for his entire career. MJ averaged 30.1 points per game, and we know that only 3 times in his entire career did he have a season where he took 3 or more 3-pointers per season. I know that was a lot of threes I just threw at you guys. Try to maneuver your way through all those threes. But that really stood out to me. I think, the 3-point game, it is a ball dominant, especially in Houston. We know how analytical the Houston Rockets are. They are going to live and die by the 3-pointer. But that number does stand out to me. So yes, James Harden's 30 points per game streak is impressive at 32. But I will tell you what, if some of the greats were taking 13.5 3-pointers per game, we would see some really stupid statistics from people like Kobe Bryant, from people like Michael Jordan. Back in the day, they weren't taking that many threes. It was a big guy game. It was a back to the basket. It was a pop and pick kind of game. It's different. Things are just different now. And it got me thinking, who's more impressive? If I was starting my own NBA franchise, would I want to go with the beard or would I want to go with the attitude of Russell Westbrook? I guess when I say that, it makes it seem like Russell Westbrook, I think, has this terrible negative attitude. No, that's not what I mean. But if you watch that man play, you can feel his energy through the TV screen. If you've ever been to an arena to watch him play, that feeling you get when you're watching him, it's real. He hits a 3, he dunks the ball, his veins pop out, he's flexing on you, he's looking at you like he wants to beat you up and he's going to go beat up your brother afterwards. The guy plays with so much fire, so much intensity. Watching Russell Westbrook play, I think everybody enjoys because when he slams the ball down, it's like he's trying to take it out on somebody. It's like he's trying to beat up a bully back he had when he was in middle school. When every time he dunks the ball, he's trying to shatter the backboard. He plays with so much fire, so much emotion, and I personally love that. But who would I rather have? Give me James Harden. I want James Harden to start my career. And I'm not saying that Russell Westbrook isn't great, because he is great. This season alone, he's on pace to average another triple-double for the entire season. That is 3 straight years where he's on pace to average a triple-double for an entire season. Russell Westbrook is great. Right now, he's averaging 22.5 points per game, 10.9 assists per game, 11.3 rebounds per game. The man is an eater. He is taking more than 20 shots per game, but remember, James Harden's taking 13.5 3-pointers per game. So why am I taking James Harden? Again, James Harden is in a position where he has to take 13.5 3-pointers. He didn't have Chris Paul. He didn't have Clint Capella. He had nobody next to him. They traded away their bench. It was just James Harden. He needed to score however he needed to score to keep the Rockets in the playoff hunt until Chris Paul comes back. Chris Paul just got back. We're going to see his 3-pointers per game come down, where Russell Westbrook has a Paul George on his team. Paul George might be the MVP this year. This man, Paul George, I'm going to have to do a whole other episode on Paul George because PG-13 came to play. Playoff P, as he calls himself, was a laughingstock last year, but this year, this man PG-13 is balling. Russell Westbrook has an MVP-type player on his team, but still feels the need to take the 20 shots per game. He mentally, and he's admitted to this, and you've heard, post-game interviews where, Paul George was 1 assist away from a triple-double, and he had no idea he was 1 assist away because he's caught up in the game. He's trying to win, where then he had Russell Westbrook on during a timeout come over and say, hey, brother, you're 1 assist away from a triple-double. Throw me the ball. I'll make the shot. I'll give you your triple-double. So of course, Paul George did. Throw him the ball. I got the triple-double. He came out and said, hey, it was kind of fun to have my own triple-double instead of seeing my teammate get it. But Russell Westbrook is so in tune with the numbers during a game, he not only knows how close he is to a triple-double, but he knows how close his teammates are to a triple-double. His points, he's so focused on the stats. He is a stat inflator, and I think that's how a lot of people feel about him. I'm not saying he's not great. He looks terrifying. Give the guy a hug. But I would personally start with James Harden. I think there's a really cool statistic out there. It's called PER. It's the player efficiency rating. Basically, it adds up all the good that a basketball player does, subtracts out all the bad, and what we get left with is basically a player rating per minute. Of how that player performs. And I think an interesting statistic to look at when comparing James Harden and Russell Westbrook, Westbrook's PER, or player efficiency rating for the season, is 20.8. James Harden, PER, player efficiency rating for the season, is 30.52. It's over 10 points higher for James Harden. And Russell Westbrook right now has 24 triple-doubles at the time of recording this. Again, third straight season he's on pace to average a triple-double. He's playing great, but he doesn't have to play this way. He is so concerned with his numbers and inflating his stats. I think that is a negative connotation that gets stuck with Russell Westbrook, and I think it will no matter where he goes. If he chooses to leave or when he retires, he's always going to be known as a stat inflator. So just to wrap all that up, if I was starting a franchise and I could go out and I could draft, one or two guard, and I had my choice between Russell Westbrook and James Harden, who am I going with? I'm taking James Harden personally. Granted, I know this is up for debate. I hope I do get a chance to see your guys' questions, comments below about how you feel. Who would you choose? Are you a James Harden fan? Are you a Russell Westbrook fan? Where would you go? And then what are your guys' thoughts on Chris Paul coming back? I think he's going to be the key cog to whether or not the Houston Rockets are able to make it over that hump and actually get to the championship this year. Chris Paul is going to be a huge asset coming back. Again, he is the floor general. He is the leader. So now that he's back, you can see that there is a distinct difference. Even though James Harden won't be taking 13 three-pointers a game, with Chris Paul being back, this does make the Rockets that much better. Once they get Clint Capella back, they're going to be great just like they were last year. All right, y'all. We have come to my favorite part of the Overly Committed episodes, and that is the Committed to Unscripted. If y'all know, this is my favorite part of the segment. It's where I dive into a subject completely off the top of my head, how I'm feeling directly from the heart, no notes, no scripting for this, just strictly how I feel about a certain subject. And today's subject, tugs on the heartstrings. It's close to heart for this one. This is the reason why I even got into sports, playing, enjoying sports in the first place. And so for today's Committed to Unscripted, what I want to talk about is this idea, this formation of all of these super teams in the NBA and really across all sports platforms in general, but really want to focus in on the NBA. All these friends, all these buddies, everybody pairing up and getting together, trying to chase these rings, trying to chase the money. And I want to talk about these super teams that are all forming. What happened to being competitive, wanting a league to be competitive? The reason why you play sports is to be competitive. That's what sports are at the bare bones. Sports are competitive. That's why I love them. I'm competitive in every aspect of my life. I used to work at a bank. When I was at a bank, I was competing with everybody else. How many sales do you have? How many sales do you have? When I was a bartender, I was trying to make the most drinks, trying to make the most tips. When I play video games, it's trying to beat the brakes off of you because it's competitive. That's why I'm playing games, is I want to compete. When it came to sports, there's only one position. A wise man once told me, if you're not first, you're last. I think that was Ricky Bobby, so maybe not the smartest guy, but you get where I'm going. Sports are supposed to be competitive. And then also want to talk a little bit about loyalty. Loyalty to your team, loyalty to your city, and how that works both ways, vice versa. So let's start this Committed to Unscripted, really talking about the idea and the formation of super teams. I think a lot of people, when you talk about super teams in the NBA, are going to go back and they're going to say, what was the Lakers? They had Kobe, they had Shaq, they had Gary Payton, they had Karl Malone. Okay, look, Karl Malone and Gary Payton were way past their prime at that time. Really, it was a young Kobe, a young Shaq that wasn't a super team. Well, Zach, what about the Celtics? Celtics had Kevin Garnett, had Ray Allen, had Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo. Rondo was young. He was drafted there. It was a different story. I think Ray Allen was more of a specialized shooter, not so much a flat-out all-star. And Kevin Garnett just spent the last 45 years of his life in Minnesota trying desperately to bring Minnesota a title. He loved Minnesota, and Kevin Garnett is still a legend in Minnesota, I guarantee you. It wasn't like he was desperately trying to get out of there to go to the Celtics to form the super team. Well, Zach, maybe it was LeBron James with the Heat. I can give you that one. I'll give you that one because that one there you did. You had the best friends, LeBron James. You had Dwayne Wade. Hey, let's team up. Let's go get Chris Bosh. We'll all go to Florida. Then they brought Ray Allen in. I would say, okay, that if you want to give me that was the start of when the super team dynasty, this whole idea of pairing up buddy, that's when it started. I can give you that one. I think we could all agree that when Kevin Durant went to the Golden State Warriors, that took the formation of super teams to an entirely new level. Obviously, I feel some sort of way about Kevin Durant, and I'm going to save that for another episode. Kevin Durant is one of the 1-2 best people in the entire league. He's top 3, easy, non-debate. He's one of the 3 best basketball players on the entire face of the planet. You had just gotten beat by the Golden State Warriors in a championship game, Game 7. And after you got eliminated in that Game 7, what did you do? You went up and you packed it and you ran and you joined with those Warriors. That Warrior team that just beat you in that Game 7, that ended up losing to LeBron James Cavaliers with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, that Golden State Warrior team was the winningest team in NBA history. They won more regular season games than anybody ever. So what did they do? Well, not really they. What did Kevin Durant do? After he got beat by that team in the championship game to take him to the finals, he went, I can't beat him, gonna join him, and he hopped on to that Golden State Warrior team. That was the start of something different. That wasn't the normal super team that we've been talking about. That was a 5-man roster with a 5-man deep bench that could take on the starting 5 of the Knicks at the time. When anything is ever bad, I just relate it to the Knicks. And now with the addition of Boogie Cousins, it's gotten even worse. But granted, their bench isn't as good, and the Boogie Cousins thing is a little bit different. Boogie Cousins got hurt. Because he was hurt, we knew he would miss most of the season, so his phone wasn't ringing. Nobody was calling him, trying to recruit him, because it would just be for the back half of the season. The Warriors called him, knew they weren't going to be able to keep him after this year, but knew that he would be ready to go come postseason time. Obviously, the Warriors are going to make it to the postseason. It ended up being a match made in heaven for the Warriors, for Boogie Cousins. Good for Boogie Cousins. He's a great player. I'm happy for Boogie Cousins. But with that being said, I don't know why I don't know why any single fan right now, anybody out there would go and buy an NBA jersey, go and buy an NFL jersey, go and buy their favorite sports team's professional jerseys of an active player. It is pointless. Why do we show this loyalty and this affinity for these players who have no loyalty to us whatsoever? These players have no loyalty to us. Why are we out there sporting their names and rocking their jerseys with their numbers on them? Because they don't care about us. They care about their money and their rings, and I get it. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to chase rings. But when you do this thing where you team up and everybody gets together to go try to get rings, something like Kevin Durant did, your rings don't mean as much. Because in a lot of people's eyes, the normal people that just watch the game like me, like most of you, Kevin Durant, you didn't earn that ring. That ring was given, not earned. So in my book, you got 0 rings. What does my book mean? Not much. But I think a lot of people view it that way. You did not earn those rings, KD. You went out there and they were given to you because we know who's going to be in the finals this year. It's going to be the Warriors. Who's going to beat them? The last 5 years, we knew it was going to be the Warriors. Maybe LeBron James can take them down. But there's no competitive balance in the NBA. Look at the NFL. We see teams go from the bottom to the top all the time. It's competitive, which makes the NFL fun. That's why it's more watched than the NBA is in America. There is no competition in the NBA right now, and that's a problem. I think another counterpoint that people would probably try to hit me with is saying, well, what about the money, Zach? Yeah, they could stay in their home market to the team that drafted them, and they can make $135 million, or they could go to the next team up the street and they can get paid $150 million. So why wouldn't they take $15 more million? That's a lot of money. And you know what? I agree. $15 million is a lot of money. But to these guys, the difference between $150 million and $135 million is like $100 to me and you. I know that sounds terrible, but it's not that much money for these guys. It's not just about, they want things to come easy. They don't want to go out there and work for it, to grind for it. These small market teams, these little, take Oklahoma City, I think, is a great example. These smaller market teams are going to be non-existent soon because everybody wants to go to LA. Everybody wants to go to Boston. Nobody wants to go to New York, but that's not the point. Everybody wants to team up somewhere. So these smaller market teams aren't getting any love. They can't keep all-stars there. Look at the Pelicans. The Pelicans are about to lose AD, and they're going to lose AD because they're small. He wants to go to LA. Nobody wants to play for these small market teams. So somebody like OKC, which I was talking about, they had James Harden, they had Kevin Durant, and they had Russell Westbrook. James Harden had to leave. He was a sixth man. Look at him now. He's an all-star. He had to get out of there. He had to go make a name for himself. I get that. Kevin Durant left. Don't agree with that at all. And Russell Westbrook, I bet you, would have left too if he wasn't so dang vindictive and spiteful. I'm sure he didn't stay in Oklahoma City because he thought, oh, I love this city and I love this town, so I want to bring a championship here. No, we all know Russell Westbrook was like, Kevin Durant thinks that he doesn't need me. No, I'm going to show Kevin Durant that I don't need him, and then I'll stay in OKC. To be a competition in the NBA. Michael Jordan didn't go out trying to chase and go team up with all these other people and left Chicago to go team up with all these other superstars at the time. No, Michael Jordan was great, so people came to Michael Jordan to play with him because he was great. Do you be great? People will come to, they'll want to play with you because people want to win. But this whole calling people up and trying to, hey, well, if we trade here and we trade here, we could all go to Miami and we could all do that. Or if we do this and that, we'll all go to the coast and we'll go to Golden State. No, man. What happened to loyalty for a city? And I am New York through and through. This is my team, and I'm never going to play for the NBA. I'm never going to be a New York Knick. So when my team wins, I feel like I'm winning. And when my team loses, I feel like I'm losing. And I'm sure a lot of fans feel that way. I'm a diehard fan. I've been a New York fan my entire life. I want someone committed to my team the way I'm committed to my team. Is that bad? That sound that bad? I want someone to want to play in New York. The closest thing I've had in New York since then was Carmelo Anthony. And Carmelo Anthony brought a championship to Syracuse. Thank God my Syracuse is the last person to bring us a title. He's a New Yorker, Brooklyn, through and through. New York loved Carmelo. Carmelo loved us. And it wasn't for the whole Phil Jackson debacle, he would still be there, but he was pushed out. I want someone that wants to be there, and I think every city wants somebody to want to be there. I do think that LeBron started this whole a player should create their own destiny, and I agree, a player should go where they want to go, but what happened to loyalty? Look at some of the greats are legends in their city because they never left, and even the ones that did leave towards the end of their career, it's because they were well past their prime, and because you're an athlete, you're so competitive, you don't want to give up playing. You can't, it's so hard to stop playing. So even though you're past your prime, yeah, you move on. When I say that, things like Karl Malone. Karl Malone is a Utah Jazz through and through. He's a legend in Utah. Yeah, he went to the Lakers because he wanted to keep playing, but he was well past his prime. Somebody like a great one, I think, is Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is a legend in Philadelphia. That man can go anywhere and get anything in Philadelphia. He is a legend. He went to Denver, had a couple of stints at the end of his career. He was well past his prime. That's different. MJ is a Chicago Bull through and through. We don't think of him as a wizard because he spent a majority of his career with the Chicago Bulls. What do you think Kevin Durant is? Is he a Warrior? Is he a Thunder? Maybe he's going to be a Knick. What is Kyrie? I don't know. Maybe Kyrie's Cleveland? What about LeBron James? Is LeBron James, is he Heat? Is he Cleveland? He can't be a Laker. That's the problem. There is no loyalty to your city. Think of some of the greatest. Kobe. Kobe wanted to leave, but he never left. He's an LA legend for life, always. Dirk's still playing out there in Dallas, and they love him. Tim Duncan, one of the best big men to ever do it, never left San Antonio. Some of the greats never leave. But in today's world, everybody wants to leave. They don't want to be a part of the small market. Everybody wants to be famous, have all this crazy millions and millions of dollars. Stop pairing up to chase your rings. It's sports. They're supposed to be competitive. You're going to lose. Take your bumps, take your bruises, learn from them, get better, win some championships. If you go through that grind, when you win a championship, trust me, you become a legend in that city and you won't ever want to leave. So I was listening to the radio, and I heard some quotes from two current NBA superstars that really hit home with me. The first was from Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. He came out and he had said, hey, I don't want to go to a big market. I don't want to be a part of LA. I'm a reserved person. I like it here in Milwaukee. They know who I am. I like this quiet place. I want to stay here. I don't want to go to the big market. Now, granted, it's still out. Maybe Giannis will end up going somewhere else. I hope he doesn't, but maybe he will. But he came out. I don't know if you guys are rap fans. He even shot out a little tweet on Twitter and quoted that DNA song by Kendrick Lamar. He said, "I got loyalty inside my DNA," and put a little buck emoji, a little deer there for the Milwaukee Bucks. He wants to stay there. That city loves him, and he loves that city. And then my favorite, the coolest thing that I think that I heard was from Mr. Damian Lillard, who is one of my favorite players out of Weber State. He's a quiet guy. He's a guard, plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. If you don't know, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you know who Damian Lillard is. But Damian Lillard came out, and he said, this city has accepted wholeheartedly who I am. This city loves me, and I love this city. and I'm not going anywhere. I want to bring a city that has embraced me a championship. That thought alone is so unique. It's so refreshing to hear. Once he gets there and brings that city a champ, that's the ultimate goal. He doesn't want the easy way out. So I actually have a quote that Damian Lillard came out and he was asked, hey, you just signed a $120 million extension, so it's pretty easy to say you're going to stay where you're at when you get $120 million. So Damian Lillard came out and he was asked, hey, what are your thoughts about possibly teaming up with other people or changing cities? And when Damian Lillard came out and he said, wanting to leave is the easy thing to do. It really is. That's the easy thing to do. I have always been and I always will be the type of person that when things are hard, to not think about how hard it is right now. Instead, I think about what it'll be like when we get through this and how it turns into what I want it to turn into. And when I bring that championship, then that will be the ultimate satisfaction. I love that. Bring a championship to your city. Your city loves you. Love your city. Show that loyalty. I'm all for it. Stop with these super teams. Super teams make the NBA less competitive. What happened to being an individual and trying to get out there and grind for what you want? Stop trying to take the easy way out, teaming up with all these other superstars. Let's make the league competitive again. Make the league, that's my new saying, make the league competitive again. This is something I've always wanted to talk about. I hate the idea of super teams. I don't like everybody teaming up. I want it to be competitive. I don't like when it's this imbalanced. But how do you guys feel? Let me know some of your thoughts. What do you guys think about super teams? Are they fun? Are they making the league more enjoyable? Do you prefer to see all of these all-stars on the same team? It's like an NBA all-star game. Every single game you watch the Warriors, they're throwing up 150 points. 27 three-pointers, 52 alley-oops. It's fun to watch, but it's not competitive, and that's my problem. Hope you guys all had a fantastic time watching this episode with me. I apologize. I had a couple of technical difficulties, but smack the crap out of the microphone. But thank you guys all for joining me. As always, peace and love, good vibes only. We will catch you guys on the next episode.
Whoever told you need somebody, don't believe they ass right now. This life the only one that you live. I'm just trying to get some max right now. Get the cash right now, move them bags right now. Don't need nobody that can hold me back right now. Fake friends and liabilities. Every time I turn my back right now. Matter of fact, y'all just moved on. I ain't doing no favors. We was talking, putting work in. Y'all just twiddled y'all fingers.